All right, another primetime game, another officiating debacle. Today we are talking the end of the Packers at the Detroit Lions game. There was not one but two instances of officiating malpractice that needs to be addressed. We'll go into it shortly, but I think it's first we have to say this because we get a lot of people in the comments. Neither of us are fans of the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions. I'm actually a Cowboys fan, so I've got no love lost for the Green Bay Packers, but what happened Thursday night was a travesty that was greatly against Green Bay, greatly for Detroit in terms of how the officiating handled it. And we'll break down everything. But first, we're going to be talking about offensive pass interference today. So we're going to throw up a screenshot from the NFL rulebook. And we want to emphasize this as we go through the film shortly. So we'll talk about this. This is from Article 4, Section A. Focus on this: blocking more than 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage by an offensive player prior to a pass being thrown in this case. And that's an act that is included as pass interference. That is really important. You can see that on the screen right there. Article 1 of Section 5, which this is from, says it even more to reiterate this point. Acts that do not occur more than 1 yard beyond the line of scrimmage are not pass interference. Those are two things to keep in mind. Let's jump into the film. All right, first play to break down here. The Packers driving at this point to tie or take the lead. They run a play, pass play. Josh Jacobs, running back, gets open. Looks like it's a touchdown, but you see the flags coming across the board. Ends up being a pass interference, offensive pass interference called by the officials on number 9, outside wide receiver Christian Watson here. He runs a slant. The referees call that offensive pass interference, takes off the touchdown. Packers end up settling for the field goal. Let's break down this call here for a second. Now, remember the 1 yard rule we mentioned at the very beginning. You can see the line of scrimmage is at the 6 yard line. 1 yard would be at the 5, the Lions 5. Look where the contact is made. Right there, again, right around the 5 yard line. That's pretty close. Officials give a lot of leeway, right? We see this all the time. They say 1 yard. That's right about the 5. That's really, really close. You could argue the contact, what's all said and done, is right there, right at the 5. That's where the alleged interference occurred. It's at the 5, so no interference. You could also make an argument that's very incidental contact. That's a very ticky-tack call, to say at very least. But here you see the flags come in. Now, what should have happened is that after the flags come in and the referees huddle after the play, there should have been a discussion on how close he was to the line of scrimmage within that 1 yard. And the referees, both the line judge and the field judge, should have met and made a determination that he was within the 1 yard marker, or 1 yard of the line of scrimmage, I should say, and it should have been no foul. This was a blown call here by the officiating crew, hurting the Green Bay Packers. But it gets worse now. The Lions have the football. They are driving to potentially take the lead and win the football game here. Run a similar play, get the running back out of the backfield with the tight end trying to pick the linebacker right there. Very similar concept we saw with Christian Watson running a route against the Detroit Lions defense. This time there's a couple key differences. First and foremost, you can see the contact at this point. Line of scrimmage is at the Packers 39. Contact is much further downfield, and it's much more aggressive contact. However, no
Yeah,
penalty called on the offense here.
and I think the key here for me is, and I want to know your thoughts on this. You look at the first play by the Packers with Christian Watson. It's more of like a bump. His shoulder hits the defender and knocks him over. It doesn't really look as intentional. But then if you go back to the Lions play of Laporta on the linebacker, it's obviously further downfield, but he's clearly squared up on the guy blocking him farther down the field than he should be. I mean, that makes a huge difference here, wouldn't you say?
100% agree, right? This is the whole point of pass interference, whether offensive or defensive, and it's in the rule book clear as day. Significantly hinder either the receiver or the defender to make a play on the football. This is deliberate and significantly hindering, and most importantly, in my opinion, well beyond the 1 yard marker. I don't understand how neither the field judge in this case or the line judge, field judge at the top of the screen, you can't really see him, line judge right there at the very top where the down and distance marker is, how they don't call this penalty, especially considering this happened later in the game. This is egregious officiating, a debacle once again for the National Football League.
And my second point here, Nick, and I think you kind of touched on it here, which I think that's good, is the timing of when these calls were made and not made is crucial in my mind. You see this here. This is a play that affects the game here, takes away the touchdown from the Packers. They have to settle for a field goal. That in itself would have allowed them win if they got the touchdown here. But the second part, this play right here is after that play. So they've already started calling a tight game on the Packers touchdown drive in an even more critical time period for the Lions when they're trying to drive down to win the game. They don't call it here. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Agree 100%. I say the mortal sin you can't make if you're an official is to be inconsistent. You hear about strike zone for umpires in baseball. If you have a big strike zone or small strike zone, as long as you're consistent, the officials weren't. It hurt the Green Bay Packers and it put a really negative impact on otherwise an exciting game with playoff implications. Big mistake here by the officiating crew.